Testing, testing.
I can hear you. Test, test. Is that why? Test, test.
For 5 o'clock, exactly. Have an echo.
You do.
Justin will take care of it.
We all do.
Got it? Nope.
Volume's all the way down.
46.
It's not Sunday, it's Saturday, that's whatever.
Cool, Google has one.
Huh?
Google has one. Find my
It is,
phone.
I'm sure, yeah.
For free.
That's it.
So when the mayor lost his phone at the Walmart and then watched it traveling around the South County area, he used his iPhone, Find My Phone app.
On my iPad, my phone.
I got it on my iPad, on my iPhone,
Well, I didn't have it.
my iWatch.
So it ended up in, my phone ended up in the Oaks.
Who was it traveling
Somebody that took it from
A
me.
thief,
A thief.
a thief.
with? And I've got it on my keys.
With John in the house, yeah, you
Yeah,
got to have all your
pretty much,
iPhone stuff.
It's nothing that I've done, believe me.
So the good thing was, the Clearlake PD with the assistance of the sheriff's department. Put a different SIM card in it, but oh well. It
My
cost me
device is secured.
$10 to get a new SIM card SIM, but I'm back in business. So, but you didn't get any strange text from me over the last couple of days, did you?
No, I've got some strange texts over the last couple of days, but none from you.
Yeah, I did that.
Oh.
I didn't say that. It wasn't only from you.
I feel so sophisticated.
Hmm?
I feel very sophisticated.
You do.
We're waiting for technical.
Nobody would want my phone though.
You could have mine.
Mine's
We don't
mine's
have-
old.
We don't have, a-
Mine's old technology.
we don't have a
Like, I don't
supply
know,
of
4
these
years
from last
old.
year. do we?
Not that I know of.
They'll come with them.
I know that come.
Do we have anybody
And I
coming?
know I've got at least one at home, probably more.
Yeah. Do we have anybody coming for breast cancer awareness?
I don't think so. I think Melissa said just that one.
Okay,
Okay, you ready?
Ready?
let's do it.
Well, y'all wanted this time to talk about annexation, so here we are.
No, seriously, let's just annex it and be done with it.
So,
Don't quite work that way, but good thought.
I will, I guess, just,
Yeah, Lakeport's finding out.
Not so easy to do sometimes, especially when you have somebody who objects to it.
sure.
Everybody loves us though. They don't want to annex us.
I don't know.
Okay,
People that
so,
make some comments that weren't so happy about that.
I thought I'd just put the map up and we can just talk. As you recall, we talked a few weeks ago about the annexation of this 300 acres right here. And so the council directed that we start working on that. So we have, we entered into a contract with Richard Knoll, who's the former community development director in Lakeport and now does land use planning consulting. And so he's agreed to kind of help us out. And the plan that we have with him is he's just going to kind of manage the process, and then our staff are going to kind of support him. And the hope is that through this process to kind of train up as well on going through annexation in the event that we want to pursue some other ones. But the contract we have with him is just focusing on those two parcels, that 300 acres right there. But, you know, there may be some other areas of the city that the council's interested in kind of looking at pursuing for inclusion in the city in the future. And so I would say that the only other thing I mean, there's been some talk about this area right here over the years, which I think, you know, has some merits.
Was there any reason why they did this jig job?
I have no idea.
79 and
People
80?
as I understand it, people opted out when they formed it. And also I did hear it supposedly followed the county fire boundary line, which I can't believe we're like that.
I
I
mean,
think they opted out.
if you look at kind of just like sort of population density and stuff like that, I mean, what would make obvious sense to me would be to
Just
include
draw a straight
these
line.
parcels here.
Yeah.
Possibly even remove this one. I mean,
Yeah.
this is owned by Lake County Sanitation District and it is their
Yeah.
area.
Yeah.
Bring this one straight across here. We
Make some
have,
straight lines.
I have had conversations with this gentleman who, relatively new property owner of this sort of little ranch. What is it? Councilmember Perry,
It was an
about
old
30,
bush ranch.
30 some acres.
The what range?
38.7 acres, I think.
So it's a quarter.
So, and he's interested in doing like an event center there.
Oh, yeah.
And he's definitely interested in being part of the city, but you know, the rest of this stuff over here is kind of jagged, but there's not really much population in that area.
Not yet.
And so, I mean, those are kind of some of the things that could make sense here, maybe even a retraction on this.
Yeah.
Again, there's not much here. I mean, you could follow this line out to pick up some more houses. I don't know that that's really necessary or provides much of a benefit to the city, but
Do we service anything out there still?
That's one of the problems is we don't, Joyce, that's where I live.
Mhm.
But the PD responds to back up the sheriff because, yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, chief, because the sheriff either can't respond or has extended response times for
Yeah,
emergency
that area,
calls.
for that area.
Emergency calls.
There is now one sheriff deputy that lives
Yeah,
up in that area that I've seen him
Yeah.
drive.
But
Bezra.
I mean, we don't have,
Yeah.
our water system doesn't go out there.
There
Golden
are
State
no-
Golden State goes a
So
little
Golden
bit
State
further.
goes out there, our police department goes out there for assistance, and our fire department takes care of it. right?
Well, no, because it's SRA. Out past the gooseneck. Correct, chief?
Not sure on the fire boundary.
I think it's like
I think it is-
Crestview.
I think it is SRA.
You mean where I live is not,
Where you live
Where
is
you live is
Lake
in the
County
city,
Fire.
so it's local.
okay.
But above you at Oak and beyond and Crestview on out is
That's-
state responsibility area. That's all
It's
right.
kind of a split where this happens one and that
Okay.
happens another.
Because what is, they have a fire station farther up
Pinedale,
past Pinedale,
that was back in the way olden days.
but who is that? Whose fire station is that?
That's Lake County
Yeah,
Fires.
It's our Lake County.
It used to be Lakeshore Fires, but that was
They
before
probably
the
just have
state.
a piece of
Okay.
equipment in there.
They don't have anything in there. It's just storage.
It was Lake Shore before they merged with Laura Lake and became Lake County.
So we don't provide any services.
There's no services out of that
Then there would
station.
be no
Oh,
reason
that's
to
where-
ask again.
That's where Golden State Water stops.
At that hydrant.
The big thing is if we're gonna be providing the services, well, then by all means, we should, annex and benefit from at least the taxes that we can get off of that because it's, but if we don't provide the services, then of course, there's no reason to annex it in.
I could just speak to the people who've called. Obviously Denise Lusolo had called because where she was, there was a guy with a gun, I think, at the house, and the sheriff's office had a hour plus response
Get out
time.
here, yeah.
Chief, I have a question for you on that, where that big,
Here and all the way up.
there's a big metal building there. I one time heard that some of the deputies do some training with the K-9 unit there. Is that right?
Yeah, our department does a lot of canine treatment. We have a very strong relationship with the owner.
That's what,
Okay.
what was going to be a theater, but now it's the Cave Builders. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, the cave builders are in there.
What is
So
that?
would he, I assume that he would be amicable to also be included in the city? Because that is an area that would be very attractive for industrial, light industrial kind of
Mhm.
use.
No, absolutely.
Which, running it straight across and keeping the one you were talking about giving back to the county?
No, I would keep that.
That's what I'm thinking, and as industrial.
Yeah, well, I mean,
That's owned by the county?
Yeah,
it's owned by the county, so.
From the county, but it's
Yeah,
something they could.
I mean, if you want to start talking about industrial development on that property, I think,
county's gonna get,
well,
No,
I mean,
our
whether
Burns
the county
Valley
wants it
militia-
or not, I mean, we tried to do some development there previously and that didn't go so well.
Burns Valley Militia stood up.
No, Vicky and vigilantes.
Mhm.
But the piece where the arrow is, certainly where the Lucelos live up further. That's industrial now, where your arrow is.
But actually, she is kind of out of the,
She's right outside the city limits.
and if we're just gonna draw straight lines, she would be out.
Well, I mean, if you came
No,
straight across
straight across
here
that
and
way.
then down,
Yeah.
this could all be.
Could, I mean, we can talk about it, but
that's an area that I think, I want to annex all the way to
do 20,
220, but that's a different story.
Why not?
well, the people that live there would need to want us to do
Want
that.
to do it.
I mean, I feel like we
I-
have to argue that with the people on the,
I don't see the vineyard growers wanting to do it, number one.
But that vineyard is
You
dead.
know what, my friends, I think 5 years ago, those people in those areas would have argued against it. But I think today, with the steps we've taken, I think the city looks pretty positive
And-
by
and-
comparison.
And just the same reason that this gentleman on the east of Ogden Canyon wants to
Mhm.
annex, because he has a hard time getting anything through the
Well, and
county.
I appreciate Alan bringing this to us and having this little workshop, because to me, and I can't speak for LAFCO and the process, because I don't know it all that well. But I think if we're going to talk annexation, unless there's a big group or a outcry against it, we ought to look at everything and see what we can do. And if we get pushback, we just kind of carve that
Yeah, I mean, I
out.
think, one thing that seems to make sense to me is, we've got the formal request for these parcels, so we
Mhm.
move forward with annexation there. Maybe on this other stuff, we're looking long-term and, maybe we just, the bulk of the work with like the environmental and service review and all that stuff happens when you add it into the sphere of influence, which is a step that can happen kind of at the same time, which is what we try to do on these two. But, it seems to make sense we move forward with adding areas that we think we may want to grow into the sphere of influence. And then you can annex all or a part of that later on, but at least you have that kind of
Would
first
there-
step done. You have a chance to, work with the property owners and see what their thoughts are.
Because if you really look at, zoom out up to where 20 is. That is the prime location for all kinds of development.
Mhm. Well, and Dirk, that my thought is, where could we put in some high-end homes? So we crank our percentage of higher end,
Well, that's,
3,000 plus square foot
Up above,
homes.
up above Borax where Tony,
Pretty steep.
no, he's got 18 lots. Zoom in a little closer on the upper end of,
But that's why I was thinking of the west end of the city.
right, yeah. Right in there. It's in the city.
Mhm.
But you're talking about high-end homes. That's already in the city. They're on like 2 to 3 acre parcel breaks.
Well, but we're looking at, vineyard properties, where Dirk's talking about, if we actually went further north.
I mean, I do
We've
wanna-
got lakefront properties to the west.
I mean, I like a bold vision. I just want to say
Be
that
real.
we already
Sorry.
have over 10 square miles and, it's going to
And we
take us
can't
a
take
few
care of our
years ahead of
residents,
us to take care and bring
I agree.
what we have up to normal standards. So,
Well, that's true, Alan, but if we're talking development, the developers would bring that up to the standard, not the city. In the agreement, wouldn't they?
well, I mean, that's normally the way.
How about that piece sewer that goes up and over and then drops way down? I think that's Reed Lane.
And Mount Baldy.
Yeah, right at the foot of Baldy. Zoom in on that. How many homes are out in there now? You're making me dizzy.
All right.
I'm getting seasick.
But, I mean, there are pockets of homes there, and then obviously where Baldy goes up, maybe not that, although there's some hillside sites that could be nice homes too. One of them is that Fitz's property right on the line, Russ?
Yeah, that's Kathy's place.
Kathy's, I mean, that's, and right on a
And then you
cross.
got, Telefaro right below.
Yeah. I mean, I guess they are actually in the city, kind of.
Well, yeah, these are. I mean, you're talking more about this stuff over here.
I am, but I'm talking about just running that line straight over.
Well, I mean, certainly all access to these properties is,
who,
through
do you
the
know
city,
who
so.
owns that other piece in between there?
Fuchs
Which one?
just sold it.
That one right there?
this one.
No,
No,
oh,
that one is the one.
That's the one that
we're
wants to
talking
be-
about. That's the event center,
yeah,
or the
right
old
there.
horse ranch.
And the guy is, well,
He's
that's,
interested.
he's interested.
Alan's talked to him.
Oh, okay.
But in that
That
little
makes
upward
sense.
jag to the north, that little, right there is, I think, the Fuchs
There's
house.
one house there, but there's some homes on that hillside. You
in
can
that
see.
draw.
that there's becoming more of those.
Anyway, so developments, I think, not just possible, but could be probable.
So, I mean, just from a strictly like city revenue perspective,
Mhm.
you look at adding residential development like this is not like
Doesn't do
pencil
much.
out, right?
Mhm.
It's residential stuff has an increased demand on services and the, property tax, sales tax revenue, obviously, there's very little property tax. And so I just want you to keep that in mind that,
Got it.
expanding a lot of residential area is actually going to have an overall really kind of negative impact on the ability to provide services. So
And
it needs to be balanced with some commercial, industrial.
So, I
and the
mean,
services have to be there.
the-
It's not so expensive to build. You start getting out where there's, no, actual water and stuff has to be installed, and that just raises everything up to.
is there, for the one building with the cave guy, is there water and everything up there? The city water?
Well, Lucille's are in a well.
I think, I
There's I
Highlands
understand there's a
Water-
pretty good well at that large
Vineyard.
warehouse building.
The Highlands
On
Water,
the road going up to Luslow's.
Okay.
Ellen's answering your question.
Highlands Water stops right here at this corner.
Yes,
Um,
because we
So,
know that because.
it will be extended because this is the piece the city currently owns that Danco will be developing. So
Right.
the water will be extended up, up in here somewhere, but none
We
of
put
this
it-
is on municipal water and there's no sewer in this area either.
Have them put it up to Hughes driveway.
But again, I'm told that right above the top of, or the, move up Luslow's driveway, there, that big building.
Yeah.
My understanding that there's a well there that's a really good well, something that we might even want to look at, talk to the guy about if we were to extend
our
our
own.
water, do that. There. In fact,
There wasn't
from
any
what,
good wells out there.
So,
from what I understood,
And
actually,
I don't know how they're.
I don't know, I'd have to check with Jeff
Because
Wilder, that they pulled out of the intent of running that as an highway. The water is so
Whether it is,
canyon stuff.
We've got
His
more
wells.
water.
Oh, really?
Silted in.
And I don't, that's, I haven't
It
verified
couldn't be
that.
very deep because that one is not that deep. and we've
it
got
seems to
plenty
me,
of water.
because if,
And
we're
we're
talking about
everything.
single landowners on these, the parcel that the cave guy is, the event center guy,
Mhm.
and the guy to the east with the 300 acres. There's three single landowners, right?
Mhm.
So where's the protest vote?
None.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you have their support, it's not going to be the same thing that's happening in Lakeport.
No, right, that's what I mean.
So have you talked to all of them about, or just the one?
Well, just the one that
That we're
requested
talking
and then
about,
the
right?
event center gentleman are the only ones. I mean, if the council wants to start including some of these in the sphere of influence, then we'd want to, follow up and contact them and see what their feelings are, obviously, before moving forward with anything, I think.
Is that just for annexation or for also sphere of influence? Can we?
Well,
lay
I
out a
mean,
larger
you don't have to get their approval for sphere of influence, but I mean, it would be helpful to know. I mean, and depending on what we're looking at, it's still a relatively small number of property owners. Even there's several parcels in this area, but most of them are owned by this one gentleman. So,
Well, I always say it doesn't hurt to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
I think
Even
those,
if we didn't annex it in now, we can still put it in our
Yeah.
sphere of influence, so,
but if you can do it, if you get those three parcels, you can do it with one municipal service review, you can do it all one, right?
well, we could. I mean, I know that the concern of these folks is they want to do something as quickly as they can, and they don't want
They don't want to
these
wait.
two parcels to get drugged down by adding a lot of other stuff that complicates it.
Right.
But
yeah, I understand that too.
Sure, makes sense.
But you can do the sphere of influence to still just annex this one.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's, as far as what I'm concerned, that's the best thing to do right now. We can talk to the other people maybe later on, we might want to annex them in, but right at this moment, we just want to kind of move forward to
Like
get this guy going, right?
low hanging fruit, so to speak.
Okay,
It is a
so,
big process though.
Takes a while.
The sphere of influence or the annex.
Annexation.
As long as you
It's-
prove everything and everything, then
Could be,
there's no
but
protest.
it
it's
could be
really
a
not-
6 months.
I was gonna say.
Well, there's always a protest hearing. So
Right.
you're still going to have 2 hearings with LAFCO. And the last one is a protest hearing. If it gets enough protest, then you may have to.
If you
Triggers
get
the-
none, then,
If you
yeah,
get less than 25%,
Yeah.
you can move forward.
right. Which if,
But if you have 3 landowners or 2 landowners that want to, then there is no protest.
Well, and especially the guy who own, it's based on your percentage, you know. If you own 3 of them, you get a higher vote calculation.
My
You'll
understanding is
control the whole thing, maybe.
the only ones that can protest are the people that live within that region. People
Right.
down on 53 aren't going to, or
That's correct.
old 53 aren't going to complain.
so
So
basically.
you may have 10 voters, right? So if you can get less than 3 of them.
Both voters.
Yeah.
Just the 2 voters. That's it.
So on this piece over here, and you're saying that people who live on either side in the city could protest it?
No,
it's just the people being added in.
but actually, there's, what residences are there?
On which
You don't
one?
have to have a residence. It's your APO and the APN.
But
Okay,
it's
but where do you
also-
register to vote?
Right. Yeah.
I don't think there's voters there.
No, there are no voters there.
Up here,
Yeah.
on Odwin?
But if
No, no,
there-
where the cave builder is.
if there is a protest vote and it goes to, then then it's decided by the registered voters.
Well,
Yes, if you get more, if you get
Well,
between 25 to 50% of the people.
You're being very
that
polite.
want it, it goes to election of the people.
Right.
If you get more than 50% protest, it's just
That's
bad.
fine.
I think this has happened somewhat in Lakeport. I mean, as long as everyone's willing, which is what we would like to have, then we don't really have that to worry about.
Right.
But on the registered voters thing, I mean, there's registered voters that have appeared in addresses and parcels in South Lakeport that you would not expect registered voters to be.
Okay.
This is just my
Thank you
point,
for,
so.
thank you for that.
Yeah,
And that's fine. I just, we don't have a big residential
Right.
presence in the area we're talking about.
so basically, as we do the sphere of influence, what we might want to include in there, but just go for the annexation of the one property. That's my thought.
Sounds good. If we have consensus from the council on that direction, we
On
can.
the 3 pieces?
You wouldn't go
Well,
for the 3 that
The
one?
sphere of influence on the 3 pieces.
Because we
And
want to
then
make this done.
go
as fast
forward
as
with
possible,
annexation
because
of the
he wants to do
300
business, And you can always
Yeah,
go back
about
and
40,
ask for an annexation as long as it's in the sphere of influence.
So we need to, yeah, clarify the ones that we're talking about.
So I'm fine with that. I mean, how do you eat an elephant, right?
Yeah.
So let's take our
Okay,
first
so
bite.
let's clarify what you want to add to the sphere of influence. So we're assuming 300 acres. You're talking about this area here.
Yep.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
You want to leave this in or consider removing it?
Is that the county's?
That's the
It's the
county's.
county.
I
Let's
think
leave it
remove
in.
it.
Let's leave it in.
Why?
Why, what's it hurting by leaving it in?
Yeah. Like it goes back
It's
to
a lever.
what's it hurting extending a sphere of influence all the way up to 20 along that corridor? I mean, it's a highly valuable, or hopefully could
No,
be a
we're never
valuable.
going to be able to do anything, so
No,
I keep it.
For sphere of influence, though, I agree.
Might not, but future councils may.
Build out along what, Highway 53.
Yeah. I mean, if
On
there's,
both sides of 53 on the sphere of influence, and after 20%.
yeah,
I'm all for it.
What's the negative, Alan?
It's going to take a lot of time.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it may be. I don't know how it may complicate the municipal service review on
Yeah.
proving how the city can provide services to
Mhm.
such a large area. You know, I
Which I don't
don't know,
believe.
but,
What services are we providing? Law enforcement?
well, yeah, I mean, you have to look at. the
Yeah.
That's it.
services and
That's
and
it.
make sure that, so.
Chief wants a 4x4.
Law enforcement, fire, you have to provide.
He's smiling.
Well, I mean, can we see who seems like they're in favor of doing something more dramatic like that?
On sphere of influence or
Yeah,
on?
sphere of influence.
I'd like to see it go across to those parcels to the west too.
So, okay, so let's forget the bold move for a moment and look at this. So we're talking about these. Sounds like the consensus is to leave this as it is at this time. Include this one? Yes.
Yep.
And then there was some discussion about some of the stuff over here. What's the thoughts on this area?
There's quite a few homes on that hillside.
I'd like to include it just because their only e-way access for egress and
It's through the
ingress
city.
is right through the city. They're using our streets.
Let me. Oops. No,
Turn the property lines on.
You include it, then you get the street maintenance too.
Well,
Well, they're privately owned now. They're not city streets.
Okay, I want to just look at the parcel boundaries real quick. Okay, so this is all where there's some houses is all kind of split up. So we would be including all of this, I guess, and this piece over here is one larger.
you know who that is, Russ?
I think that's Reed
That's
Ranch,
Reed.
isn't it?
She's still living there?
I
think
still
she is.
living.
I think she is. Either her or her
It'd be
son.
right down at the bottom there.
Yeah, she lives right down in the lower right, left-hand
Right
corner.
there. Yeah.
Let's turn that into the sphere of influence at this point.
Is everyone okay with that?
I would-
Okay, so we're in agreement on all of these areas, and now we need to decide what you want to do on
Going north.
going north.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Pretty rough and vineyard.
Make it easier for the chief to tell the guy to keep his dawn guns off.
There's one vineyard on the east side of 53.
That was a problem one. Anyway.
Maybe we ask Richard, you're on Zoom. Is there anything you want to add to the discussion? Think would be helpful?
You're,
Can you hear me?
Yes,
A little quiet, but yeah. There we go.
Well, I don't have a whole lot to add. I will say that what I have looked at with regard to your general plan does, it's encouraging because there's language that speaks to including land within the sphere of influence fairly far north. So I think that's one of the first tasks that needs to be done in this whole process, is to really a deep dive in the general plan to develop supporting language, which end up being findings in support of expanding the sphere of influence, and also the general plan designation process, as well as the pre-zoning. So all three of those pieces have to be in place before you can proceed with an annexation. And it's really just a matter of taking the time and going through the steps to put that in place. Just listening, I think there's a lot of support for doing what going in the direction that you've been talking about. I think the big issue may be in the development of the plan for the provision of services, which is the equivalent of a municipal services review. But basically, if the city is going to be the applicant for annexation, you've got to develop this plan to present to LAFCO that defines how you intend on providing the full range of services. Law enforcement, fire services, general government, water, wastewater, et cetera. And, you know, there are some limits. I realize that. I don't know how LAFCO is going to assess that big picture of the provision of services, but it's something that has to be taken into account as you proceed with the specific annexation projects. And I'll just go back to my time in Lakeport. One of the things that happened there, which is what you're talking about tonight kind of reminds me of what the city council did in Lakeport. They basically kind of went through a similar process, expanding the sphere and doing the general plan work and the pre-zoning, and then embarked upon a number of small annexation projects where there was property owner support, and that really facilitated you know, the annexation of a number of small groups of parcels, in some cases a single parcel. And you know, so I think your approach is well taken, and you know, I'm encouraged by what I'm hearing. So anyway, that's about all I've got at this point, unless you have any questions.
All thoughts after Joy?
So how much longer if we did the sphere of influence all the way out, before we can annex this one piece of property that basically this all started with, right?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I think especially if we were doing something larger, I would think that we would want to just have completely separate applications. Just do sphere of influence adjustment, annexation on the 300 acres, and then do this other one.
About the 40 acres. At the same time, I mean, we have two willing property owners.
Well, we haven't gotten a formal request for that, for the 40 acres.
I'll work on that tomorrow.
I mean, I don't know.
So-
It
so
seems
I'm
to
okay
me
with
that
I don't want to.
it makes a lot of sense
Yeah.
to focus on some of these smaller ones and kind of know that there's interest in moving further north. And as we move through the provision of services stuff, the municipal service review, I think it's going to be much easier for us to justify these type of things, and we'll educate what we think the chances are maybe on some bigger move in the future. But
Because I think we want to try to do the whole thing, you're going to have a long problem. Because the services is going to be the biggest.
I thought sphere of influence was less of a challenge, less work than actual annexation.
well, I mean, on the sort of the property owner involvement side, and if you have conflict, that's where, but I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Richard, but the sphere of influence part of it is, I mean, to get there, you have to do all of the other stuff anyway, including the municipal service review. And that has to be done to include in the sphere of influence. The annexation is more of the, you know, tax sharing agreement and, you know, property owners being supportive and that type of thing, which can make it a lot messier. But
Yeah,
Thank you.
you're right, Alan. You know, the whole process can get bogged down politically, of course. I think you all realize that. But you know, to a degree, the city has the ability to define its future boundaries through the sphere of influence process. And you know, typically LAFCO doesn't get too excited about that. At least, you know, that was my experience. I don't know if things have changed in recent years or not, but you know, getting the foundation in place, the sphere of influence the general plan designations and the pre-zonings is going to be important. And how you do that, whether you do that all at once or you do it in pieces, is really up to the city council and to some degree the political situation within specific areas.
How much is it going to cost us to do two separate applications through the spirit of influence? Like, we're talking about it in terms of timing, but is it going to double the cost, I would imagine?
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's just double or what. I mean, I think depending on the area, it could be exponentially more. I don't know that it's going to be 4 times more or something like that. But I mean, what we're talking about here is a big enough move that I'm just not sure how much effort it's going to take to focus on the provision of services part of it. I mean, doing the
That's
general
biggest part
plan
right there, yeah.
designation, the pre-zoning and all that, I mean, it doesn't really take more time, I don't think, to do that. Unless there's an extent, like Richard mentioned, that we can't justify with the general plan, so we need to amend some sections of the general plan, and then, it's more complicated. But I don't know if that's really much of an answer, but
It's the service review that if we go, that whole thing to me would be a problem. That's going to really hold things up for annexing the smaller part that we know we can service and use.
The services include water and sewer as
Yeah.
well as.
well, yeah, it all has to be analyzed and
services.
figure some plan. I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean that we have to provide it, I don't think, but there has to be
Is there a plan
way
for
to
septic
provide.
or wells? I mean, that's all.
I don't see the service plan up in the mountains of Ogden Canyon being much different than up on a major highway route, Like, there's already limited services up there. We're doing basically the same work, just a couple miles north.
My understanding is properties out there are on well and septic because there are no public services. So it could just be an extension of that.
And quite frankly, that 40 acres has got a great well. They are in septic, however, they've got sewer connections. I think right down in the southwest corner, there's actually a manhole there.
Right. That's all the part though that we're saying can be easily done is the rest going out to
Yeah,
Highway
well,
20 that we have the problem with.
So we're talking about not doing that one now. That one seems to me to be
He's questioning why are we not doing?
going to Highway 20.
Well, I'm just saying, right now, there's little to nothing in that Ogden Canyon spot, as far as I know. So
And
it's a similar review as we would up on a major highway a couple miles north there. I think in terms of police access, they have access. In terms of fire access, they have access. It's all on a major highway. We're going to deal with the same water and sewer problems and Ogden Canyon as we would on 53. So it's a similar review process.
Well, I mean, sounds like there's at least 2, if not 3 of you that are very interested in doing that. I mean, we could sort of take that direction as the preferred approach and start digging into it. And if we feel like it's going to be overwhelming and bog the whole thing down, then we can check back in and pull back to.
That's a good idea.
sounds like a plan.
Yep.
It's a good
I
idea.
agree. I mean, if there's a little bit of, I mean, if the parcels north of the city over there, along on the east side of, if they're interested in it, I mean, I don't know if they're interested or not. I mean, one of them is that vineyard, right? That's dead. Vineyard is dead. But to the
One-
north of it, you have
the
a
one
big
on the
cannabis
east side?
grove. Yeah.
Yeah, that vineyard was dead because they changed it to cannabis, quite frankly.
Yes, I thought it was doing pretty good until they stopped watering it.
Yeah.
Because they like cannabis, not
That's the property north of that.
to the,
To the
yeah,
north
to
of
the
that.
east, to the east of the highway.
That's true.
The west of the highway, the vineyard's doing
Right.
well.
Hello,
Howdy.
come on in. All right.
Early and late.
Okay, so is that the plan then?
Yep.
Thank you.
I do think if we're gonna go for that, we need to have one conversation with the guy that the cave driller guy.
Sure.
Because to see if, I mean, We have a relationship with them already.
With who?
The guy that drills.
Cave
the caves.
builder.
Guy on Park.
Yeah,
Oh,
Okay, well, I mean, yeah, if we're,
you
it sounds
could
like we're
talk to that
definitely
guy,
moving
there's
forward
three.
with that, so we need to, that would be helpful to do some outreach and find out what's going on. I mean, so, we probably don't have time to get into it now, but the idea being, when we talk about going to Highway 20 is really some sort of ribbon along Highway 53,
correct.
not like everything north
No,
of
a
city
ribbon,
limits.
no, a ribbon.
we don't want to take in the oaks quite yet.
Yeah.
So just like.
We don't wanna go all-
Lower Lake either.
Go all the way to this. BLM.
The reason I think I think David is the same opinion. I mean, there's a huge, it's a perfect location right at the intersection of
Oh, yeah.
53
Oh,
and
yeah, well,
20.
it's-
And,
yeah,
you know,
It's for
there is a
sale.
for sale sign on it. So
Tony Lamperti's got it up for sale.
It's Tony's, yeah.
who is?
Tony Lamperti.
Same one that owns this
I saw trucks
33
out there,
acres over here on
probably
Burnsville Road. Same one that
Trucks
owns
out
those
there.
18 lots that I was just talking
And
about.
that
know?
roundabout's gonna be taken out
Yeah,
here pretty
no,
soon
very
by a
well.
truck.
Well, talk to him, see if he's interested in that parcel in the
Everywhere,
city.
every time you go by there, there's different ones.
He works for
And
him.
what he'll say is, what's in it for me?
Yep.
Well, your property value is going to increase.
Yeah. Show me, he'll tell me.
Oh, really? Well, if he's smart, he actually knows already.
Yeah.
Because has he ever tried to do something with the county?
Oh, yeah.
And
Oh, he's been kicked around pretty good.
that's my point.
Cannabis operation out on his uncle's place, or his
Okay, well, that's it.
stepfather's place.
Okay, well, I think that's good unless there's anything additional. We'll focus on that. I guess we need to see if there's any public comment. Is there any? No one on Zoom?
Richard, do you want to comment any more?
Anything additional, Richard?
No, thank you.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay, so I guess we will stop this and take a break until
6 o'clock.
6.
All right.
I'm gonna run home and get my
You got some?
wireless tracker. Got kind of used to that.
Russell, are you rkramer66@gmail.com?
Yeah. Why is that?
No need.
Okay, that's good.
This needs to be, if you're off balance.
Yeah.
I think he's back from fishing. Yeah, it was him. Oh, Don is gonna do it.
Communication.
Yeah.
I thought I was.
He does a very nice job.
He's a professional. I'm
Yeah,
not.
yeah.
I don't get paid for that.
Mhm. Yeah.
Wow, that must have been. Yeah, so that would suck. Oh, geez. That's too bad, because I've got the scaffolds.
We have everybody showing up here. Okay, look at that, they're carting the door down. Down a little bit. Right, we call our city council regular meeting at 14050 Olympic Drive at 6 o'clock to order. First item of business is the roll call, please. Mr. Assistant City Clerk, or whatever your title is today.
Councilmember Overton. Councilmember Kramer.
Here.
Councilmember Claffey.
Here.
Vice Mayor Purdock.
Here.
Mayor Slutin.
Present. Mr. Don Smith, would you do the invocation for us today? Pledge allegiance, we're going to do first, but after that. Mr. Claffey.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please stay standing.
Let's bow our heads. Heavenly Father God, we call you, come into this place. Moment, to do the business of city. Unit. We pray your blessing on this time. We also acknowledge the good work of our police department, the advancement and achievements that are acknowledged in this place. But thanks for that and continued protection. Amen.
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 Okay. Do we have any changes to the agenda, Mr. Flora?
No modifications, Mr. Mayor.
Make a motion to accept the agenda as submitted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we go to number 2, swearing in of a new police department sergeant.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council, and members of the public. Tonight, we have the exciting opportunity to formally swear in Corporal Mark Harden into the position of police sergeant. Obviously, Corporal Harden's been around the department for a while now, but I wanted to take the opportunity to talk about some of his career accomplishments, because I think it shows the character of person that you're getting in this position and the experience that he's going to be able to share with all the other personnel within the police department. So I'll just address him as sergeant now, because that's what it'll be in a few minutes. He started his career in 1994 with the United States Marine Corps. Once a Marine, always a Marine. You can see his shoes are nicely shined there. Would not expect anything less. In 1999, he became a police officer, and he served throughout Napa Valley, serving as a canine handler, a field training officer, corporal, watch commander, bike patrol officer, DUI. He received the MAD DUI award. He also served promoting to corporal with the Calistoga Police Department, where he served as a watch commander, and then became an instructor in quite a few different things, including firearms, patrol rifle, arrest and control, defensive tactics, field training officer. Field training officer is something that I think most everybody in the department knows him as, because he's trained most of the department since he's been here in 2015. In fact, I think they oriented and then immediately had him start training officers. He came to the Clearlake Police Department as a lateral hire in June of 2015. He served as a canine handler for most of that time. He served obviously as a field training officer, a watch commander. He served as the department's homeless liaison officer. He's involved with starting the Coffee with a Cop program here locally in Clearlake. And he was selected in the corporal special assignment. He was selected by the department as the officer of the year in 2019. Mark has also served giving back, is what I call it, with the police academy. He served with the Napa Police Academy from 2000 to 2007, including as a recruit training officer, senior drill instructor, everybody's favorite in the academy, a driving under the influence instructor, a scenario evaluator, and physical fitness instructor. And most recently, he's been involved with efforts to, didn't know that. most recently, he's been involved with efforts to try and continue the program. For those that don't know, because of budget cuts, they actually shut down the police academy or temporarily suspended it. And Mark, I think, jumped out of college retirement to try to ensure that some semblance of that program continues. So with that, I want to acknowledge Mark's family here, which I'll have him introduce shortly. But I think for all of us serving this, and additionally the position that he's going into, that the family is most important, and that's what makes sure that, you know, they form us, shape us, and support us during the difficult times and the good times, which is tonight. But I think it's important to acknowledge their sacrifice for us to be here doing these positions. With that, I would like to invite up Lieutenant Snyder and Lieutenant Hobbs. So what we'll do next is we'll administer the oath of office, which I'll read to Sergeant Hardin, and then we'll have his family up to do the pinning honors.
I, Mark Hardin, do solemnly swear support and the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California. I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, that I will and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to.
Now he gives a speech and sing God Bless America.
Yes, but before he gives this speech, I just want to acknowledge all the police department personnel that are here with dispatch, the police officers, supervisors, and everybody else that's come out to support him in this occasion. And with that, you have to say a few words, so come on up. Welcome to Sergeanthood.
Didn't know that, huh?
Are you going to speak in?
I greatly appreciate the opportunity. And I can't be more tickled than to see all my friends and family and coworkers here to support me. It really means a lot, especially to my in-laws, who I don't think they've missed an event since we were 18, 19 years old. And so I greatly appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
All right, with that, we'll take a short little break to congratulate Mark in person.
Take some pictures with your family or your friends. Lift your chair up if you have to.
I think mine's up there.
All right. What a rowdy crowd over there. Buzz. All right, Mr. Kramer. Councilman Kramer. Let's reconvene. Isn't that better?
Serious.
What is that? It's hearing aids. I don't know. Can't tell.
I think he does. Maybe.
All right, we're going to reconvene here. Next item on the agenda is presentation of a proclamation declaring October 2022 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Whereas domestic violence impacts women, children, and men of all racial, cultural, and economic backgrounds, and whereas emotional and physical scars resulting from domestic violence are often severe and long-lasting. And whereas in the past 12 months, Lake County law enforcement responded to over 253 incidents of domestic violence, including men, women, and children. In the past 12 months, the Victim Witness Division of the District Attorney's Office has served 336 victims of domestic violence. Lake Family Resource Center responded to 942 crisis line calls, served victims, and additionally sheltered 116 domestic violence victims and their children for a total of 4,292 bed nights. Whereas it's crucial importance to hold perpetrators responsible for assault and to prevent domestic violence at every opportunity. And whereas family violence is a community problem, stopping the cycle requires not only the strength and courage of survivors, but also the support and involvement of all members of the community. And whereas many organizations such as the District Attorney's Office, the Sheriff's Office, Lakeport Police Department, Clearlake Police Department, and Lake Family Resource Center are committed to ending domestic violence in Lake County and provide essential crisis intervention and prevention services to all members of our community. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the month of October 2022 is designated as Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and in the city of Clear Lake and our community is urged to support the efforts of the agencies assisting victims of domestic violence and to increase their involvement in efforts to prevent domestic violence, thereby strengthening our community and creating an environment which honors, nurtures, and protects all members of every family. Signed by me, dated October 6, 2022. Is there somebody here that wants to receive this proclamation? Is there anything you want to say? Please go.
Yeah,
Good,
awesome.
please
Thank
go.
you. Just want to take a quick moment to thank our partners in the city of Clear Lake for proclaiming October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. As many know, with COVID, a lot of activities have been shut down. Luckily, we have a lot more coming up this year with the restrictions lifted. So we're excited to announce that on October 22nd at 9 a.m. at our Kelseyville office, we are going to have we are going to have a walk to raise awareness for domestic violence. So we ask that you wear purple, invite your friends, your family, your pins, your pets, dress up and come join us as we walk down Main Street and bring awareness to domestic violence. I would also like to thank again the council for helping us shine light on this issue that we have. And hopefully we can all use this month as a reminder to our children, family, friends, and ourselves that love shouldn't hurt. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to go to a presentation of a proclamation declaring October 2022 as Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Whereas, while considerable progress has been made in the fight against breast cancer, it remains the most common diagnosed cancer and second leading cause of death among women in the United States. And whereas each year it's estimated that more than 220,000 women in the United States will be diagnosed with breast cancer, and more than 40,000 will die as a result of the disease. And whereas October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, an annual campaign to increase awareness about the disease, and whereas during this month, we reaffirm and wear pink clothing to raise awareness, we also support courageous fighting breast cancer and honor the lives lost to the disease. Whereas this October, we recognize breast cancer survivor, those battling the disease, and their families and friends who are a tireless source of love and encouragement, and applaud the efforts of our medical professionals and researchers working to find a cure for this deadly disease. And whereas Breast Cancer Awareness Month is an opportunity to unite all citizens in our community to prevent breast cancer death through increased education and regular screening. Now, therefore, the City Council of the City of Clear Lake does here proclaim October 2022 Breast Cancer Awareness Month in the City of Clear Lake, dated October 6, 2022. Do we have anybody to? take this? Apparently not.
I'd be happy to receive it, Mr. Mayor. I brought my Hooter hat for Hands Up for Hooters, which is a team I get to belong to. I did a couple of training walks with the Hooters this year. It's a team based out of the Fair Oaks, Sacramento area. I believe they were going to try to walk in every one of the Susan G. Coleman walks this year around the country. A great group of people. And I believe that group has raised about 1.5 roughly in the several years that they've been in existence. Also like to recognize the great work that's being done here in Lake County to support breast cancer victims and survivors. And sadly, several of the women that I had the chance to walk with when I did the San Diego 60-mile walk with my wife, several have passed away. Cancer came back and sadly took their lives. But through the work that's being done with the varieties of breast cancer that there are additional treatments now because of the work that's being done and the support that's being given. So thank you very much for this recognition for this terrible disease and for all those making the effort to try to end it. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. All right, we'll go to public comment. This is the time for any member of the public to address the city council on any matter not on the agenda that is within the subject matter or jurisdiction of the city. The Brown Act, with limited exceptions, does not allow the council or staff to discuss issues brought forth under public comment. The council cannot take any action on non-agenda items, and concerns may be referred to staff or placed on the next available agenda. Please note that comments from the public will also be taken on each agenda item, and comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person. Doesn't appear that we have anything in the room here. Do we have anybody on Zoom, Mr.?
There are no comments on Zoom, Mr. Mayor.
All right, we'll go to the consent agenda. Can I have a motion? Are there any changes? No. Any changes from the public on it? If not, we'll bring it back to the council.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Kramer and a second by Councilman Claffey. All in favor? Aye. Okay, we go to item number 10, consideration of appointment of Kurt Giambi-Bruno to the Lake County Vector Control District board for a term of 4 years. Mr. Melissa Swanson is not, our city clerk is not here. Maybe who's going?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, council members, Ms. Swanson isn't here, so I'll try to address any questions that you have about this item. I don't really have much of a staff report to present, but Mr. Giambruno's term is up. Sounds like the vector control staff really appreciate his support and leadership on that board and are requesting that he be reappointed for another term.
Very good. Any questions for staff? If not, is Mr. Vice Mayor Purdock?
Yeah, I wasn't able to meet with Mr. Giambruno, but I did speak with his peer and also another representative of us, Chuck Leonard, who also serves on vector control. And he shared with me that they appreciate being a part of the vector control board, that they like the work that they're doing. And I very much support keeping Kurt on vector control. I think he does a great job.
Okay. Any more comments here from the council? We would open it up to the public. We have any public comment on this item?
There are no public comments, Mr. Mayor.
Bring it back to the council. Direction, this.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we continue and appoint Kurt Giambruno to the Lake County Vector Control District Board for the term of 4 years.
Second.
We have a motion by Vice Mayor Purdock and a second by Councilman Kramer. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes. We'll go to item number 11. Discussion and consideration of establishment of a home buyer assistance program as a retention and recruitment incentive for city employees. Mr. Flora.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. So as you know, one of the more difficult tasks we face as an organization is recruitment and retention of high performing and committed employees. We have a great group now, but as should be no surprise to you, home ownership is one of the keys both to bring folks here and to keep them here. And we know access to housing locally is certainly a challenge. Costs of home ownership continue to rise, and just trying to kind of come up with some ways maybe to help keep some of our employees here. And so we wanted to talk to the council about it and see what the level of interest was. There's a number of sort of questions that I put in the staff report that I think would be helpful. There's not very many examples of this type of program out there. We did track down, I think there's maybe 4 or so in California that we were able to come up with. But they have some good ideas that these just came in yesterday that I hadn't really even thought about or anticipated. So I'd like to talk about some of those items, but a few things we'd like to discuss. I mean, amount of the potential incentive. Of course, there are different ways to look at it, but we would recommend requirement that any home purchase be within the city. Of course, that it be owner occupied. There would be the option of imposing some type of income limits for program participation, requirements for the time of being employed with the city if you were to receive this incentive. And then, of course, we would like to make sure that there's a method to make sure that the incentive itself is tax-free and not taxed, thereby maximizing the amount of the incentive that is available. So with that, maybe I'll just kind of stop and see what reaction the council has to this idea, and then we can talk some details from there.
Councilwoman Overton.
So I do think this is a good idea. I thought years ago that the police department helped some of the police officers at the beginning of the city to help buy homes. And it may be that they used, I don't know what they used, but I remember that there was an incentive program for the police department.
I believe it was a federal grant.
Yeah.
Federal, the
Councilman.
COPS
Okay.
program.
Right, the COPS program. So, and that did help. I mean, it helps to know that they're stable and everything. So is there a way to look at that type of what they did through that program to give us some ideas of what this program would look like?
Yeah, we could. I'm not familiar with that one at all, but happy to take a look at it and see how it's set up.
It was just a simple finance program, I believe, through a grant, federal grant that we had received to help law enforcement officers live in the community that they served.
Councilman Claffey.
City manager, you and I discussed the tuition program. What other retention programs do we have in place currently?
Well, as far as retention, I mean, you can look at the things that are in the MOU. We don't really have what I would consider like any type of standalone retention programs per se. We try to give people meaningful work in improving the community and training opportunities to advance and all that type of stuff. But we don't have really a standalone program for that. Related to the housing, we have had a couple of employees apply for the homestead program, as well as, of course, a number of folks employed outside of the city organization. But, it is even more of a challenge to build a new house, just cost-wise, than it is still to find a house to purchase. I mean, we have a real deficit of what you would consider quality housing in the city. So that part of it's a challenge. But, the average home price in Clearlake is around 230, 240,000. I just recently checked with a contractor and said that the average cost of construction right now is about $350 a square foot, which is going to put a 1,200 square foot house at 420,000. So, that's more of a stretch, and just thinking that a program like this might help certain folks take that next step if they've been working here for a while. I mean, I hate to hear stories about people considering, going for a second job or something like that to be able to take the step into home ownership. But work for the city. So
So we have had employees leave the city. Do we conduct exit interviews with them? What is typically the response?
Well, we don't have a formal exit interview program. I mean, I know, I don't know if the police department does. You know, folks that work in City Hall administration, we certainly do that, but I don't know. You know, I can't think of any situations on our side where folks have left because they couldn't afford a house in the city. But I do think, you know, taking that step and making that additional commitment to the community makes a difference.
Councilwoman Overton?
Okay, I mean, I like the idea of the program. But I think there's one, I definitely think that if we did this program, that I personally would say, I'm not going to give city money for them to move someplace else outside of the city. So it would definitely have to be inside the city limits. But where are we thinking that this money is going to come from? Our housing set aside money or?
Yeah, we wouldn't use general fund, but we have housing funding, the same funding source that is funding the homestead program. We have additional funds in there that aren't committed right now.
Because I wouldn't, I mean, I want to help our employees too, but I also don't want to take away. So we need to have an amount that we're going to use each year. Is that what you're looking at? Is that we're going to use this much money of the housing set aside for employees? There has to be a,
We
you have
you
to
know,
be a
I
limit
wanted
here.
this to be a conversation and see what the council thought about it. I mean, I don't think we're instantly going to get 20 applications for this program. I mean,
Yeah.
there's already a lot of folks that have housing in the city or housing that they like somewhere, right? But you know,
This is an incentive to try to draw people here and have them stay. I'm assuming because the police is getting harder and harder to find officers to even
Absolutely.
apply. Most people are like getting out of it. From the ones I've talked to are like, man, I'm leaving. I don't want to deal with it anymore because of all the things that have went on. So is this like an incentive thing to say, you come here, we'll help you buy a house so we can attract more police officers?
well, yeah, I mean, you know, it's when we pretty much all of our new hires are out of area. And we've had some times where it's worked okay and others where it's been a real scramble where someone who wants to live here and, you know, we got to figure out someplace to put them. And we've had to do a lot of temporary stuff and just trying to make it all work. And I mean, this isn't going to solve the inventory problem, right? But
Might help. So it's an
Any
overall
advantage
police
we can-
department, city hall together.
well, that's the way I would envision.
Yeah,
And I think, you know, I would expect that we will get some participants interested who are new hires, whether it's a police officer or someone else coming, being able to take advantage of this. And also folks who may be sort of more entry level in the organization that have been renting or haven't been around too long and would like to take that first step and put down a little deeper roots.
Vice Mayor Purdog.
Yeah, I want to concur Councilmember Overton's comment about, I'd like to see it happen. I'd like to see it happen within city limits. So my position is to, let's move forward with this and come back with how much are you looking at? Is it a percentage of their annual base salary or how you're structuring that? Or is it just a flat amount? What are you recommending for this program?
Well, I mean, I was initially thinking, you know, somewhere around 20 or 25,000. And looking at some of the other places, they do have the ability to offer quite a bit more. Of course, housing costs are higher in some of these areas too. There's one here, which I like a lot of the terms that Walnut Creek did. They have a maximum amount of 65,000. And then they also have a special exception that if it's what's considered a hard to fill position, they're allowed to go up to 200,000. I mean, I don't think in our market that would,
Yeah, but their houses are
that would be
$100 million.
necessary. But
So.
there's some other things like the borrower must be able to pay the closing costs on the mortgage itself and at least 5% down payment. some things like that. One thing that's interesting about how they have theirs set up is it's kind of structured as a loan, but the employee doesn't make any payments or accrue any interest. But what happens when the house is sold, the increase in the value of the home is split with the city. Which I
Happy with just getting our money back.
which I thought was an interesting idea. So,
Councilman Kramer.
Yes, I, along with Vice Mayor Purdock, I agree with Councilwoman Overton. In support of this program, one question I had, and I think I talked with you about it before, is that there be a requirement that they not sell the house for some number of years to be determined. So is that something that would?
yeah, I mean, I think, that makes sense. It looks like most of the programs out there do a 5-year term. But, whatever the council thinks, I think there definitely needs to be some limit on it.
I like the 5-year term. I would be interested to hear what Mr. Jones has to say about that. Because I don't know contractually if we could do that, but also hate to see them live in it for a year and then turn it into a rental.
I would think it has to be owner occupied on most programs. If
Well,
they're-
we're just building it,
Right,
so I want
right.
to make sure that's built in.
So, I guess I should ask if I can speak.
Councilman Claffey.
Okay. Let's take a step back. So I think we all agree that retention is important. We just threw out a number, 25K, potentially higher. I think we still have to figure out if retention is important to us, is that the most important thing for our employees? I think right now, this isn't San Francisco. Housing prices aren't unaffordable here. There's different tiers at different levels. I appreciate that we like the sound of home buying, but maybe if we're trying specifically for retention, I just want to make sure that we know that that is what's going to help us keep the most employees.
Vice Mayor Purdock.
I think Councilman.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Councilwoman Overton. You go
Um,
first.
So if I kind of like the idea that when it's a loan with no interest or anything, and if they sell the house, that we,
Right.
even if we give them a little discount, say they borrow 30,000, we get 20 back. I mean, to me, that makes it to where the program, we have to sustain the program. So, I mean, to me, it's like, if they're going to sell the house, they really shouldn't benefit from the money that we're letting them use. I can understand not paying any interest or anything, but I do think that money, if they sell the house, that portion should come back to the city.
Vice Mayor Purdock.
Okay, I also agree with that point. The other thing that I want to just express here is we're not dealing with money out of our pocket. We're talking about the taxpayers' money for this program. But what is, and this is just a general question, I'm not expecting an answer, Mr. Flora, but what is the cost to the city when we lose a well-trained, seasoned employee? I think that's where the taxpayer gets the benefit, because we're retaining people that are good quality employees and helping them to have home ownership here in the city. But I do like upon sale, we'd recoup those funds.
I think it's a great idea. I mean, you're going to get, we need to have a check on how much and how long. And those are the two things I need to kind of look, like to see. But I think it's definitely helps with retention, and it will help with community building. All right, we open it up. Any more comments from staff? We open it up to the public. We have anybody on Zoom for this item?
There are no hands raised on Zoom, Mr. Mayor.
All right, we'll bring it back to the council. Councilwoman Overton.
Just a thought here is maybe there is a way where they don't pay it back if they stay working for the city for, a period of time. There could be an incentive to, if we're looking at retention and keeping them in the city, that as long as they're a city employee, that, so much money comes off of that loan. Just a thought that we might be able to.
One more comment, Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind.
Go ahead. I want to after this.
If it was possible, Mr. Flora, it would also, in today's real estate market, housing prices are going down, but as we know, interest rates are starting to raise. I think they're still good, but they are going up. if they could use that money either in escrow to try to buy down the rate on the mortgage, that could help in the long term. If they could buy down a point or two. So maybe another application for this funding.
I agree. And that was-
Well, I mean, one thing we see a lot with,
Yeah,
I mean, the city
there's-
still has the first time home buyers program, which hasn't really been used the last couple of years. Rates have been so low and stuff that I guess, there hasn't been as much demand for it. But I mean, that's one thing that we try to focus on in figuring out a package to help these folks is, a lot of times with the entry level home buyer, they end up not having enough down payment assistance. And so they have to pay for the mortgage insurance, and that really escalates the payment and often makes it unaffordable for them. So, anything that can be done to sort of wipe that out is a big advantage.
Appreciate you bringing this to us.
Do you have enough direction, Mr. Flora? Go ahead.
I don't know how much direction I have, but it sounds like there's certainly support. I mean, you want me to come back with a more detailed program for you to approve? I mean, do you have?
Yep.
Okay. Do you have thoughts on?
I think 5 years
what's some-
seems like a term, and then
Has to be
either,
in the city.
Yeah. and then there might be even a, if they sell it within 5 years, we get all of it back. But if they stay here for 10 years, that thing is, waived or something like that. That's what I'm thinking of. The longer they stay, the more they can keep.
I mean, when we look at the cost to recruit to replace a lieutenant or a police chief,
Yeah,
we're looking at $30,000 easy.
probably more.
More.
So I mean, it's difficult to quantify the
You're right.
training
You're
aspect
right.
of it too, and then the
You're right.
loss of productivity for a period of time and all that. But
All right. We'll go to city managers and council member reports. Mr. Flora, you're up first.
I don't really have much to report. I do want to report that effective tomorrow, Adeline Leyva will be the city's new public works director. So excited to have her on board and move forward with all the exciting projects that we have.
Tell her, her first step is that she has to come to city council meetings.
She will.
Councilman Kramer, we're going to start in the end.
Okay, I don't have a lot. I was in a RRA protracted thing where they had asked support of each of their members representing various agencies, in our case, the city. And what they had proposed, I wasn't comfortable with. So I talked with city manager Flora and also our city attorney Jones and asked, and in fact, I asked them to delay the vote on this thing for 5 days, which they weren't happy about, but they did. And after it was reviewed by everybody, we decided that we could support it. It wouldn't obligate us to any financial thing. And certainly at that point, for what we're supporting is basically support of a grant to be used for potentially a biomass biochar project somewhere in the county. So that was the biggest thing that really I've been involved in.
Councilwoman Overton.
Really only thing I have to report on is the California League of Cities had their special election for a new board member. As Lakeport City Council resigned, and our new one is Scott Bura. He's been on several committees already and very involved in the League of Cities. So I think he'll do good for us on the board. And the only other thing, I just have an announcement that our Hoedown event is this weekend. It's sponsored by the Clearlake Senior Center, and it's for our Meals on Wheels programs, and tickets are still for sale.
Councilman Claffey.
Well, I had the pleasure of going to a series of great events along with some others here. The Chamber of Commerce had their fantastic luau at Cache Creek, one of the best wineries in Lake County, I think. I think that was a great venue, so everyone should go check that out. The K-9 unit for our police department had a wonderful event as well. So thank you for having me there, and that's about it, Mr. Mayor. Just a lot of fun.
Vice Mayor Purdock.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I just want to continue on on the tails of Mr. Claffey's comment. The chamber had the luau on Saturday. It was fantastic. Just really want to thank the city admin and staff for your support. It was great to see the chief there all dressed up like his family with matching shirts and such. Good to see a lot of smiles and people having fun and enjoying the time. I would also like to recognize someone that was pretty important to me as a kid growing up. Resident of Lake, or not just Lake County, but Clearlake, who passed away on Friday, and that was Judge Richard Freeborn. Don't call me Richard, he liked to be called Dick. He was a volunteer firefighter with and support person with Lake County Fire Protection back in the day when it was Lakeshore Fire. Of course, he started drug court here in our South Lake Municipal Court, and then it became Superior Court. And most importantly, in my life, he was a very good scouter and started growing Troop 44 here in the city of Clearlake. Was president and MC at my Eagle Court of Honor, and helped me to grow and be a better scoutmaster and leader. And actually, his last hike, he joined me for a 10-miler on Mount St. Helena, was his last hike with the troop. Just a very good man, very community organizer and supporter of all the things that we tried to do. I think the last community event he helped me with was when we were working on what's now the chamber building, when we were doing some demo and working there. He volunteered his time. Not something you see a Superior Court judge do. So just an outstanding human being. My condolences and heartfelt thoughts go to the Freeborn family who's considering what they may do. Dick wasn't a big one for funerals and big festivities. He's, adage was you're here one day and then you're not. And that's just how it is. So I'd just like to, Mr. Mayor, let the good people of Clear Lake know that he will be missed. And I hope they'll keep him in their prayers.
I want to tag on to that. He was, he started a judge's breakfast, and that's been a community kind of forum that's been around for a long time, and was started back up again just beginning of the year. And it was one of the things that I started joining way being in years ago, before I got involved with Rotary and then the city. And he called us all service junkies, community service junkies. And I'm glad that I have known him. I also went to the luau, great event, fantastic event. And I also attended a K-9 dinner and had a lot of fun there too. So thank you. I think that's all.
Isn't there another dinner this Saturday night?
I don't know.
Nobody mentioned it.
So nobody has mentioned it yet.
Well, I wouldn't mention.
Oh, we have that.
She mentioned
Oh, did you mention? I apologize.
I didn't.
And then there's the dinner the week after that too, I understand.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes, there is one the week after.
Got to pull it out of them.
All right. Anybody has to do overs? If not, future agenda
I
items.
apologize.
I did want to point out, you're talking about Judge Freeborn. We are putting together some type of recognition so the council can do a proclamation for.
Thank you.
That's great.
Sure you appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Thank
great,
you.
great. All right. If not, no future agenda items, anybody? Okay, we adjourn to closed session.